White, a blank page or canvas. The challenge, bring order to the whole through design, composition, tension, balance, light, and harmony. That was a career high for me. That was the opening line of Stephen Sondheim's musical, Sunday in the Park with George. And it contains a message that's been on my mind in anticipation of Rosh HaShanah. Staring at this blank calendar ahead, I, perhaps like many of you, wonder how this year will unfold. The state of affairs in the world is concerning. There are conflicts that divide us, violence that persists, and setbacks to our shared achievements. Sondheim's framework of 6 vital elements of creation gives us a way to think about beginning anew, putting something together that can sustain us through the challenges ahead. As Jews at the head of the year, we face the same blank page or canvas as the artist. We ask ourselves, how do we create something meaningful from a place of such doubt? One answer can be found at the very beginning of the Torah. God faces tohu vavohu, confusion and chaos, and yet the next thing he does is create the world. As human beings created in God's image, we too can bring order to the whole, even when faced with chaos. Sondheim shows us how. The musical is about the French painter Georges Seurat and his masterpiece, A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of La Grande Jatte. By uncovering his creative process, Sondheim shows us that Seurat didn't just paint. He made design choices, like where subjects stand, which colors blend, and what the eye sees first. Before creation, there is intentional design, which in Hebrew we call kavanah, the direction of the mind. This kind of intentional design can transform the most ordinary moments, even a cup of coffee. Before taking my first sip in the morning, I recite the appropriate blessing, and then I drink. After my first sip of coffee, I recite an additional blessing, one that Reform Judaism left on the cutting room floor since it has to do with the resurrection of the dead. We no longer say it in our Reform prayer services, but if anything brings me back from the dead, it's that first cup of coffee. The early Reform movement made this choice for us, deciding resurrection was too supernatural. My father, who helped me edit the sermon, pointed out to me that spiritual design, or kavanah, means making our own intentional choices about what we're willing to believe, even when it doesn't make rational sense. Faith isn't about sanitizing away the parts that challenge rational thought. When we take tradition structure and add our intention, the things that we design become sacred. But we also need composition, the understanding of our place in concentric circles of relationship. I teach our preschoolers about this when I visit them every week for Shabbat. Before we light the candles, we sing. We circle once for ourselves, and once for our families, and one more time for all humanity, before we close our eyes. And then we close our eyes and sing the blessing. Right now, we are sitting with ourselves, beside those that we came here with, and among countless unseen connections. The Talmud teaches that God dwells in these concentric, ever smaller circles, from the synagogue to a minyan of 10, to 3 people, to 2 people, to even 1 person sitting alone. Each circle matters. These concentric circles of relationship are the composition of our lives. But with so many different competing elements, and different people, tension is inevitable. But our tradition doesn't ask us to avoid this tension. In fact, we are taught to befriend it. The shofar, perfect prop placement, illustrates this perfectly. First, it smells really bad if you put your head on that end. It did come from the head of a ram, and year after year, it is spit into and then stored on the rabbi's shelf. The sound isn't exactly pretty either, talented as you are. The sound is atonal. It's rough around the edges and kind of harsh. And then when the shofar blower actually gets up, we might worry, sitting or standing in the kahal, will they do it right? How long will it last? We're embarrassed for them if they struggle, and sad for ourselves if we're not moved by it. Despite the uncertainty, when we hear the sound of the shofar, we stand at attention and invite this arresting sound into our bones and through to our souls. And while hearing the shofar is an obligation from the Torah, there's more to it than just following commandments. The medieval rabbi known as Maimonides teaches that the shofar contains a remez, or a clue, that unlocks hidden realizations about ourselves when we listen to its sound. When that truth is unpleasant, as it often is, we learn from the Midrash that every single blade of grass has a star up above guiding it and telling it to grow. Each of us is a blade of grass, and we each have a star guiding us to grow, even when growth isn't yet visible, even through the serious tension. Both the shofar and the blades of grass teach us that growth almost always comes from challenge, and from that place we create. But tension cannot be sustained without balance, the equilibrium that holds everything together. George Seurat painted tiny little dots on his large canvases, an artistic technique known as pointillism. Up close, we observe individual colors, but step back and there is a complete scene, like, for example, people out strolling on a Sunday in the park. Our difficult moments, as well as our best ones, don't exist on their own. Each tiny dot is an integral part of a vibrant, complete canvas. Like Seurat's painting, our lives need contrast in order to create meaning. The Talmud teaches that we must bless the bad just as we bless the good, which is hard to do, but the truth is we need that contrast to build the full picture. And like any artist, we need to step back from that picture. We need to step back from the canvas periodically to see what we've created, to see what contrast there is in our lives. After 6 days of productive work, even God had to rest to restore the soul. We also need genuine pauses from the frenzy of our hyperactivity. On Shabbat, our weekly day of obligatory rest, we say Shabbat Shalom to one another, which does mean peaceful Shabbat, but Shalom comes from the Hebrew root meaning to complete, the same root as in the modern Hebrew lishalem, which means to pay, as in to settle an account. So in essence, Shabbat Shalom means, I hope this Shabbat allows you to see the whole of your life without needing to subtract or add anything. It means, I hope this Shabbat you can lay down the paintbrush and the pen and rest in the balance that you have created. With that balance comes light, the element that reveals and transforms what we've created. In the beginning, amid chaos and confusion, God's first words are, Yehi Or, let there be light. We recall this each time we light the Shabbat or the festival candles. These candles are lights that we do not read by or work by, but these lights exist to appreciate the miracle of the light itself. At late Shabbat, our monthly young adult Shabbat service, which happens right here, we invite anyone who's celebrating a simcha, happy, joyous news, to come up to the bima and light candles with us. This creates a moment of warmth and clarity amid the disconnection that we often feel. Through the light of their simchas, we learn to amplify joy, sharing what we've celebrated with others. With design, composition, tension, balance, light, all working together, we can finally achieve harmony. Harmony is the pleasing effect of knowing that competing elements work together toward a unified whole. At the end of the musical, George Seurat's great-grandson appears on stage with all of the characters of his great-grandfather's painting. They bow to him, and he instinctively bows back, understanding that through all of the struggle and setback, the creative process had produced something worth preserving, something that's lasting and beautiful. Right here in our courtyard stands a reminder of this harmony, and it is literally written in stone. Our beloved fountain, which anchored our courtyard for a century, was deconstructed and then rebuilt. It looks different now, but the fountainhead remains. It's mounted on a new base inscribed with a profound message. You'll see it on your way out. It says, "The old shall become new, and the new shall become holy." These days of awe call us to teshuvah, return. Rabbi Larry Kushner teaches that teshuvah is both the hardest thing in the world and the easiest. He writes, "It only has to occur to you to make teshuvah, and you've already begun." For us, that means returning to who we're meant to be. It means returning here to this community. It means returning here to this place. It means returning here to our shared creative work. The masterpiece requires all of us, returning Shabbat after Shabbat, Shana after Shana, adding our dots of meaning to the canvas that we're creating. What's old shall become new. Just as God created the world from chaos, just as the artist begins by staring at a blank canvas, we will also create something beautiful together. And together we shall make it holy. To a good year, to arranging something beautiful. L'shana tova.